No, man. Just everybody's looking here and goes to
I'm not gonna do that to myself. That's horrible. What kind of monster are you? Why would you wait this long to watch a bootleg copy? Yeah, I'm gonna wait up right because it's not like really been reading per se. Like I have, but
like those I was doing it.
I wouldn't know how to explain it. It's not like
Because it just wants you to see like
I need to feel the first hour. Up to
I did. It was pretty crazy on the time.
All right, good evening. Let's go ahead and get started with today's lecture. Man, the crowd is thinning.
Whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Who's checked in? Last time TacoBell.com.
Why are you what?
I don't know. My phone was on TacoBell.com.
All right. So let's go ahead and see what we are going to be doing this week. So we are kicking off week 12. Halfway there. Excited or worried?
I'm scared.
Scared? I would be scared. That's my intention. Well, if I was in your place. Well, I mean, I'm halfway through a program, and then I have to start worrying about jobs and applying and interviewing.
Oh wait, this is actually supposed to go somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would be worried.
It's a piece of paper. It's a potential career.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. So today we are going to kick off. We're going to just for today. We are going to pause on our Node.js and JavaScript and all this stuff. We are going to look at database today. From Saturday, we are going to start again back on Node.js and some more concepts related to database. But for today, it's just database. So today, are there any DBAs or somebody who have worked with databases before? No one? You have? Okay.
I've worked with them.
You have?
I mean, does
This
WordPress
much?
count?
Huh?
Yeah.
I was really.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, what I meant was like a database like MySQL or Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle.
No SQL, not that far.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those of you who have worked, it might kind of seem very kind of basic, but again, this course is designed for people from all backgrounds. So I'm going to start from the basic. But the thing is that the basic stuff would be just today. So I would highly recommend, if you have never done any database work, please focus, give your 100% attention. I'm going to be talking about SQL and all that stuff. And then I will be kind of drifting into the real database lingo. So please make sure you capture everything, what it stands for, what I'm talking about by next class. Because again, in 1 week, we will be done with databases. Okay? So that's why it's kind of very important you guys focus. A lot of people kind of find this difficult, the databases part. Again, this is just, what we will do is just the basic stuff, trust me. There are more complicated ones, but as a developer, a lot of developers you will see are not really good at databases. I'm not really good at databases, but what we should know is the expectation is we understand the basic concept. We know those concepts. We can write basic queries, and that's kind of what most of the developers know. When it comes to like writing complicated queries, that's why they have very scope-oriented or certifications for DBAs and all that stuff. That's what some of the people kind of go in that direction. But as a developer, there are basically 4 operations that you should know when we are working with database. And then I'll go through all of them one by one. Okay? So let's go ahead and start our class. The first thing is, before we get into the product, before we get into anything, I like to go over the concepts really quickly so that everybody knows what I'm talking about when we look at some of this stuff. So the first thing is SQL, SQL, and this is pronounced as SQL. Okay. You will see that's how a lot of people pronounce. Some people you will see calling it SQL. That's also fine. But I'll be calling it SQL, and most in the industry you will see that's what it is called. Okay. So what is SQL? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Now, what is SQL or SQL? SQL is the programming language for databases. That's what SQL is. So SQL is exactly what JavaScript is for web development, right? When we are making websites, when we are doing web development, we use a programming language, and that is JavaScript. SQL is exactly the same thing, just for databases. For specifically SQL databases. I'll go in a little bit more detail, but the bottom line is that SQL is a programming language that is geared towards databases. Okay, so if you want to work with SQL databases, we absolutely need to know SQL, and it has own syntax and everything, just like any programming language. Okay, so SQL allows us to interact with the database. We can put some information in the database, we can retrieve, we can delete, we can update, and do all those kind of operations. But we need to know SQL in order to do that. Okay? Structured query language. All right, everybody clear on that? What is SQL? Again, SQL is also kind of similar to like Git from the concept wise. Git is the main technology or a skill, and what is GitLab or GitHub? They're kind of based on top of it, right? All of these are products that use Git. Okay. Similarly, SQL is the underlying programming language, and all the products we will see, I'll go through them, are kind of based on top of it. Okay. The underlying part is SQL. All right. So I said SQL is a language for SQL databases. All right. SQL databases. Now the question could be, are there NoSQL or not SQL databases? Yeah. We call them NoSQL. Some of the examples is, you guys have already studied one, Firebase. Firebase is a NoSQL database. You're going to study MongoDB. That's also a NoSQL database. One of the other popular ones you will see is CouchDB, and there are a lot more. Okay. Now, what is a SQL database? The one that we are going to look at today, for example, MySQL, is considered a SQL database. Microsoft SQL Server, that's also a SQL database. Oracle is also one of the, these are the more popular ones, and there are a few more. Okay. So this is the difference between a SQL database and a non-SQL. That's what I mean. So SQL language is only for these kind of databases. Okay, it's not going to work over here. That's the first difference. Okay, and we'll see what defines, what is the actual difference between both of them. All right, everybody clear so far? Good? Okay. So let's see what else. Yeah, I have all those. Okay. So now comes in, what is the difference between a SQL database and a NoSQL database? So a SQL database will have three main components. It's going to have tables, rows, columns, right? These are the three components that a SQL database is going to have. SQL database is also known as RDBMS, which means Relational Database Management System. All right? So just remember, R is relational. Okay? So if you hear the word RDBMS or relational database, your first thing is it's a SQL database. That should it tell you. And when you know it's a SQL database, what is it going to have? It's going to have, you will have to define a table. It's going to have columns, and then eventually it's going to have row. I'm going to put row at the bottom because we create tables, and then we create columns, and then we have rows. And this is the exact terminology when we are talking about SQL databases. We'll say, oh, it's a SQL database, a MySQL. Does it have a table? How many columns does that table have? And how many rows does that table have? Okay? When we talk about NoSQL databases such as Firebase, MongoDB, and Couch database, what was the format for these databases? Like what were, when we were storing the information? JSON, right? It was JSON format or BSON, binary JSON, right? Kind of same thing. But basically it was a JSON format. So when you talk about NoSQL databases, it does not have table, columns, rows. The terminology kind of shifts to collection and records, right? Collection is basically kind of loosely similar as tables, and that's what we say. We don't say that these NoSQL databases have a table or something. We say collection, right? It's a collection of records, and the format is JSON. All right, that's the difference between a NoSQL database and a SQL database or a relational database. Okay, everybody clear on that? This is the one of the more popular questions also. People like to ask these questions, even though they are not working on NoSQL, but I've had in my experience, they ask you, oh, do you know the difference between a SQL database and a NoSQL database? What's the difference and all that stuff? Okay, again, these are the terminologies, but since today we are focused on the SQL database, I'm going to be talking about tables, columns, rows, and all that stuff. Okay, again, SQL database, relational, RDBMS, all of these are considered SQL databases. Okay. From the history perspective, these databases, the SQL database, have existed long before these came along. They are more kind of stable. These databases are kind of becoming more popular with this format. You know, a lot of companies, again, from the industry perspective, in my experience, bigger corporations and all those stuff, they kind of prefer SQL databases. Startups and smaller companies, you will see kind of shifting towards NoSQL databases. A big attraction for these were they came out as open source databases. So a lot of kind of companies, you know, who are on budget and all that stuff kind of shifted towards that gear. They're considered very fast also. You saw Firebase database. But bigger corporations who are looking for 24-hour support, they don't want to have the responsibility on themselves, so they kind of go with this structure, right? And it is definitely more established, trial and tested, the SQL databases. All right. All right. So since we are not going to talk about these for now, I'm going to move these. We'll come to MongoDB at a later point in time. Okay. So now what is MySQL? Again, MySQL is similar to the concept-wise as GitLab or GitHub, right? It's a product that uses SQL, right? It's one of the products that makes your use of SQL programming language. The database is based on SQL. That's what MySQL is. So MySQL is a product, is one of the products that use a SQL database or a relational database. That's what MySQL is. Okay, you could use Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle. They kind of follow the same syntax. There are a few changes when it comes to SQL, depending on these different products, but most of the part, the SQL language across all of the databases is kind of similar. Okay, you won't find like great changes. Okay, kind of translate easily. Okay, so that's what MySQL is. So today we are going to be looking at MySQL. The biggest advantage of MySQL is it's open source. What that means is it is free to download and use. Okay, that's the biggest advantage of MySQL. The other two, these are more copyrighted. What I mean is you need licensing information and all that. So, but MySQL is, for the most part, is free. Okay, that's where we are going to start looking at MySQL, and that's why it is also more popular because small companies, or if you have a product in mind, people start using MySQL first. Okay, if you know about hosting websites, right, you will see a lot of companies who are providing that hosting services kind of include MySQL in their product. As an integration, they give you some space with MySQL. You can save your data, I don't know, 50 GB or something for the first initial free storage. Okay, that's what MySQL is. All right, questions. Everybody understand what's the difference between SQL and MySQL? What are the different products for when we talk about SQL databases versus NoSQL databases? Okay. All right, everybody understands SQL is a programming language, right? MySQL are more products on top of it. Yes.
Where are the AWS databases
So AWS, that's a good question. So AWS has a database. They call it DynamoDB. DynamoDB. And I'm trying to remember. I think it kind of falls under NoSQL, but I could be wrong. It's been a while since I used DynamoDB. I think it kind of falls under NoSQL. I could be wrong. I'll have to check. But the database that AWS uses is called DynamoDB. All right, that's their flavor of MySQL or one of the databases. Okay, and when you sign up for AWS, they kind of give you some space for that. Yes.
Same question. What other than stability? What would be a reason why a small company was growing? Like, at what point would it make sense to shift from NoSQL to SQL? Is there some specific reason?
Right. Right. So number one is the support. People kind of find it difficult to believe when I tell them. Companies pay a lot of money to these products just because they will offer some kind of support. So if my database goes down, nobody wants their database to go down, right? So they want somebody like 24 hours, they call them and they fix that issue, right? With these products, the NoSQL one, you kind of own that thing. So if something goes down, you have to sit and debug and try to figure out what's going on because those people don't provide. I mean, if it's open source and free, you're not getting the support. A lot of companies are not okay with that, and they are willing to pay a lot of money, millions of dollars, just for that support. That if their database first of all, their database shouldn't go down. That's what they say. They're saying, I'm paying you to make sure that this is up and running 24 hours 7.
I never
right?
understood. That's why, like, if you buy hosting packages,
yes.
they'll upsell you with like premium MySQL
Right.
packages with 24/7.
Right. That's the biggest thing that companies go
There's
for.
nothing inherent in the way this data is organized in the back end.
Oh no, it is. From the technical point of view, yes. The way the data is organized, NoSQL databases, why they became more popular is that they advertise saying they are like super fast, and we use Firebase, right? You see how the instantaneous update is. The SQL databases have always been kind of on the slower end. The way their structure has been set up, the way you use these things, they have come up with ideas how to make this fast. But still, these became more popular, the NoSQL ones, just because they are super fast. And one of the reasons is they're using JSON format, right? JSON has always been very popular. It's smaller in size, quick retrieval, quick fast. That's why they are popular. Again, there are benchmarks when you hit like billion rows or something. That's where people kind of worry about the NoSQL databases. You can read some of the white papers and studies. People say, well, when you hit this much data, NoSQL database kind of stopped performing as well as they advertise. That's where these databases kind of shine. Again, it depends on how much data you have, right? For example, if you're Walmart, you have like trillion bytes, I don't know, petabytes of data. They cannot afford to go to NoSQL because the data is kind of NoSQL databases have not been built to handle that kind of. They're still early versus compared to these ones. So these ones have gone through the test of time, and they have kind of implemented, they have kind of improved themselves. Versus these ones are still going on. But for the most of the companies, they don't have that much data, so that's why they kind of are still there. Eventually, they will get there.
Last question: can you combine the database? If you had like
Excellent
your
question.
customer information and all your like stuff you necessarily like you absolutely can't lose based in like MySQL, and then maybe have like your your employees and like their access be all through Node. I'm not through Node, sorry, through NoSQL.
NoSQL. Excellent question. So here's what Ches is saying. Can we combine both of these and get both of them, right? There's a database called MariaDB, and they came out with this idea. It's called hybrid. I love that database. You can have tables, columns. These columns can hold JSON data, and when you get it back, you can parse it as a JSON. So MariaDB. But I don't think that's free. So I don't think so. Yeah. So MariaDB is actually they forked off MySQL, and since it is open source, they downloaded the code for MySQL and they kind of made a hybrid, and so it supports both NoSQL. You can have columns that have JSON data, and when you get the data back, you can parse it as JSON.
Open source. Thank you very much.
It's open source, MariaDB.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
There is a premium though.
Yeah. Well, I used right. I used MariaDB in Walmart, so that's why I was under the impression. But in the open source, just make sure that they have this JSON support. The one that I used had, but again, I think they bought the product. But MariaDB is one of them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Booking.com is a premium.
All right. So let's get back to our lecture before we can jump into some of the more advanced ones. All right, what else? Okay, everybody good? Any more questions? All right. So when you are installing, right, when you are following the guide, you must have installed two things: MySQL Server, okay, and MySQL Workbench. Again, MySQL Server is actual server that kind of runs your database and everything, and MySQL Workbench is basically just a UI. So MySQL Workbench kind of allows you to see the database, the rows and tables and columns. That's what MySQL Workbench is. It's basically a UI to your main MySQL server. Okay? Now, if this is the UI, can I use something else? You definitely can use something else. There are some more products other than Workbench. Forgetting the name. There's one more for Mac. That's a separate one. But I'm going to use MySQL Workbench as a UI. I have all the examples, and I'm going to be using MySQL Workbench to show you all the examples. Somebody else is using a different one. That also works, but my focus will be using MySQL Workbench. Okay? Again, everybody understand that this is just a UI to connect to our main MySQL server. You can use any other product also, but in the class, I'm going to be using MySQL Workbench. Okay? All right. Any questions?
What's up with the dolphin? Why is there a dolphin?
You haven't been in the Linux world, have you?
You can Google why there's a dolphin. All right. Any other questions besides the dolphin one? All right. Okay. So one more term I want you guys to know before we proceed, because we are going to be using that term a lot. And people who have been in the database industry for a while, they will recognize this called CRUD. All right, CRUD. We call them CRUD operations. And CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. Alright? These are all the operations that your database can do. Alright? When you're working with databases, when you're creating APIs, we say that your APIs or your database supports all the CRUD operations. So this means create means inserting a row in database in technical terms. So I'm able to insert a new record. Read is I can retrieve data from the database. Update means that a record already exists in the database and I can update the record. Delete means the record is there, I can go ahead and delete that record. Okay? So these are the operations that I need to make sure I understand and I can provide. Okay, CRUD operation. That's what CRUD stands for. Okay, we'll see each one of them in detail in a few minutes. All right. Any questions? So either you are getting it or you're not getting it at all. Update means that the record exists in my database and I'm going to go ahead and update that with new information. Yes. Okay. All right, everybody good? Okay. All right, so the next part is, if there's no question, we'll start the coding part. Now, I did post 2 README files, and I followed the Mac one. Line by line, it is exactly how it is. The whatever the instructions were, for Mac at least, they were just exactly what it is. I followed it. I tried to make sure to uninstall and follow those. So if you followed the Mac one, you should have both installed. Unfortunately, Windows one I didn't follow, but somebody with a Windows computer, did you do
so
it?
Mine, I did everything as I was supposed to, and I was saying, sitting in court, I cannot find it in my match. I have everything installed, but I cannot find it on the box. I don't know.
Okay, so
I
it's
installed it too when we did the fever, and I have the installer, and that's the only thing I can find is the actual SQL.
okay.
So, and it was a little bit different. The steps were not totally the same. It was asking different questions, and the
Okay.
one said it wouldn't let me do like so.
Okay, so for people with MacBooks, does everybody with a MacBook have that installed? If I double click, it shows up on this screen. Is everybody? You don't have it? Okay. Okay, you can download my Workbench also. Okay. Okay, so one, is there anybody else with MacBook who doesn't have MySQL? You also don't have it? Okay, you're doing it right now. Okay. All right, for Windows. How many, okay, anybody, how many people have successfully installed on Windows and they are able to come up to this screen? Okay, all right, all right. No, so there's no, yeah, that's good. So there's no point in going forward. So I want everybody to be installed. So Troy and Nick will go around the room and I'll be there. They'll help you out. For Mac, Troy, do you have a Windows machine? Okay. Okay. So Troy is going through. If you have a Windows machine, work with Troy. We'll take 15-20 minutes. And if, for the people who are with Windows, can you help other people out? Because there's no point in going forward if you don't have this installed. Nothing would make sense. Okay. For Mac also, Nick has a Mac. He can go through and help you out. Yes. Server should be installed. Yes. I think in Windows they were suggesting if you go to command prompt and check. I think it should be installed. Did you install 2 things? Yeah, then it should be good. Yeah. All right, so let's take 15 minutes. Help everybody out. Make sure everybody has this installed. Yes.
So I was installing, I have my work, got the workbench installed. I want other ones to serve. It says besides
What you're doing or what
There is not that option.
Okay, let's open up the guide and see what they're saying.
You didn't need to make more.
So on which step they are?
So I have, I have the workbench downloaded. For that.
Okay, and you have this done, the first part, the server, not the
No,
workbench.
so I have the second part done. I was going through and downloading them right now as we were talking.
Okay, so
I guess it's just. Oh, hold on. Actually, give me a second.
okay, and once you are installing the server, this step is extremely important. The password one, please make sure you do this. And the password that you set, again, make sure it's an easy one. Nobody is going to hack your computer. I have my password set as password. The biggest issue is people forget their password and they're confusing with your computer password or is it my database. Please keep it simple. Just keep it password. Other reason is, the second reason is we are going to be using the same username password in our code. So if you're working with somebody, they will be able to see your password. And I will be doing exercises. You will be able to see my root and my password as password. So there's no reason to keep your bank password or any complicated password right now. Okay. Yes, Aaron, what was your thing? So you did this part? The first one. Okay.
So this is just the full circle.
Yeah, it's going to say root. I would recommend just keep it something simple. I have it as password, to be honest.
So then you scroll down.
Yes. That's, I have not been able to find an easier way to upgrade your password. But if you remember, it's okay. I uninstalled it and I reinstalled it because I couldn't remember the password. I would just Google and see if there's a difference. Said I was not able to find an easy way to update my password.
Where do we sign in? Like, see if we know.
See what?
Like what am I using as user?
Yeah. We'll come to that. We'll come to the next step. Yes, we will.
My password is probably gonna be.
Okay. So if you really want, if you're on this screen, you can click plus. If you're on this screen, there's a plus MySQL connections. You can click plus. Give a connection name and then just do test connection. It's going to ask you your password. What screen? Where are you? So on the top you will see like an X or something or a home.
Yeah.
Left you can go to that home page. Show me your screen.
Yeah, I have like a local instance.
And now just
Yeah, you are on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, just click.
It looks different.
So no, because you already created a connection. So here, right click and delete that connection that you see that a gray box. Right click on it. Yeah, delete it.
That means I'm connected?
No, should be. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to get to that. So delete the connection. Now your page should look like something like this.
So just name my connection something
Yeah,
and then try
something
to.
and do a disconnection. It should ask you your password. If you enter,
there you go. So now we have the
So
server.
this is the install that I
Now you
installed
want to install
from this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I was able to download this one. This was just really simple, but it's this one. I don't have any of that stuff.
What do I do now? Like honestly, like if I can't figure it out.
wow. The easiest way I found was I uninstalled all my things and then restore. I don't know. Google first, how to update my SQL. To be honest.
And I think that's what it did about it, gave me an
So this is my workbench right here.
Maybe.
So make sure you remember that password. Because if you don't, you don't think you'll be able to open it. So we also do something simple. My root gas patches have so now you can just like eject this.
Yeah, so I guess that's my question is how do I like actually install this? Because I thought I installed it and this is all I have. Yeah.
So it looks like it's
So I guess this is what I like when you send me that link. This is what I can install. This is what I
and then you can
install.
also go.
Is that
Yeah, you can do it through if you just Google or you can even go to
Yeah, this is the one, right? Yeah, so that's the one I installed right here. And then it pops up with this.
Because that was the whole thing where I was asking you
You can ask.
it was like the
No, it's not, that's why I'm saying
and
that's why
actually,
I'm and stuff. That's why I'm
that's what it was in here.
I did exactly what you said here, where I put this one 16.
And when I asked you,
So this is what it is, this is 20. So
like,
that's this one.
that.
Trying to add it. Saying that you already downloaded it.
Yeah, you
It says click the next to my finger.
Do you want to hear that?
Oh yeah, where is
we haven't done
Because I opened it and right click.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, what I did is I picked like the bottom ones that show which isn't even
Already.
this is another
See, it doesn't tell you what
Let's go ahead.
I chose
Yeah, or I mean, there's this really big.
I found a Stack Overflow for it, and it says,
So yeah, you were just missing this.
no, they use a query to solve it. The first thing is they tell you to stop MySQL,
Okay, so create a password.
and then they like have a list of commands to do.
Stuff.
I
So
mean,
that is literally what I did. I saw
So it's
those
like-
Mac commands. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna uninstall that. and
I
install
feel
it.
like it's so much easier than going through that whole process. Because then you might go through that whole thing and you might not use it.
I forgot my, like, cause I tried to go in my, you know, my
So what are your
secret.
passwords?
I thought I always use the same password.
yeah, me too. That's why it's like really strange.
Uninstall. Reinstall right now. Otherwise, you won't be
You
able
thought
to.
you were slacking.
Right, I would do this.
And you just have to uninstall the. Not the work.
Did you?
I did not, because I was like, I do not remember doing this before. I never.
What do you do? Yes, they were.
And it asks you all that questions.
Oh, yeah.
The password and all that stuff.
I just use
Line by line.
I didn't, I should have.
I didn't get mine.
Whatever.
Oh,
It's what it looks like, right?
check.
Oh, he's on. Yeah, I have
Is that what that is?
Yeah, it'll come there. I don't think it's. I think it's the dark one from Mac.
Oh,
Because I was just looking for options. I don't see an option in.
Oh, yeah.
like, I just clicked on that green.
This thing might be just.
Actual underneath my.
Oh, so actually, I don't know what we're
No, but that's where they're saying something.
Well, you're in. Was there in there?
I don't know. It's the one that you don't want to long here.
Let's just move forward.
Yeah.
Because as long as click this,
It's better or worse.
Does the server? No idea. Let's do this.
Okay. I can't get in the room.
I don't know.
But I'm installing it.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, just do the server.
Oh, yeah.
And then install the server.
let's uninstall.
They're saying problems. They're talking.
I didn't realize there were two different things. I had to work or I had to replace my
Oh,
computer.
you're okay. It's gonna take a long time.
Yeah, this is the last class. We're like, oh yeah, I just searched my computer. Probably I got a workbench.
So what is it?
I don't know. He said that he did something again and it's.
What do I have to do?
Well, it pops up and it's not.
How do I-
You gotta go back.
I can't remember my password.
Control panel.
Keep
Program
going to
uninstall.
like pull it out.
They knew.
Oh, so I can just use it on the server?
Yeah, just the server. Let's start with that. Because Workbench is just a UI. It won't do anything.
I don't know how I forgot my password.
Installing?
You have to uninstall it.
What happened?
Yeah,
I just pressed it. It's hard to find something.
My password is the same.
See, hold on.
Oh, get that.
It's so good.
Yeah, I think
Once you start doing it, you'll be like,
Yeah, it is weird.
So we can try this. Like if you use it,
What happens if you install it?
He tried to do my moment.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, that's an instruction. I think this is only for Windows, right? That's why he's. Yeah, no, it's not right. Because the instructions at some point they say to quickly snap. So run your MySQL workbench.
I'll keep like.
Yeah,
but I mean,
It's a workbench.
so I'm
Oh, there it is. Go to your home.
What am I?
Oh, no, it's
My
like
server.
I know there's a lot of stuff that I can do.
Right click and default connection.
I could very easily like.
This is weird. It was all set up. I was going in like, hey, here's some work. And it's valid password. I'm like,
Give the connection name, give the
yeah. The symbols look like dies or something.
Yeah.
Well, one close. But it is easy enough. It goes for it.
So this was.
Yeah, you can close everything else. Just close everything.
No, you already have.
Working.
I backed
I told you.
Because we have the dark mode in Mac.
You're the one who said
Uh,
lots of stuff in
it,
your
it,
badge.
yeah, it makes it dark mode.
To a doubter. Doubter. I just
That's why you copied the password.
Working? No working?
I just have a question. Because there's a step.
Yeah, that's okay. What I have found out is it should be, but I think you need to, one of some of the sheets from the resources, I don't know, like none of the slide comes up, then you have to add it in a table. But don't worry about it. The only thing is, open my single workbench, create a connection, and see if that works. If that works, that works? Okay.
Are we doing anything with the shop?
No.
How are you thinking to build my scarf? Should I be able to?
Where you guys get it? I mean, it was work magnets.
Should be, but if I go open this, and then do a connection, and it's working. You do a test connection, is this successful? Okay, then you're good. As long as you're able to do this thing, and then put in some name. I'm going to call it localhost, and then do a test connection. Enter your password. It says okay. It says successful. Then you're good. That's all we are looking for. Oh yeah, because I have the dark mode on this.
Windows XP, like with the fonts in it? Oh, that's just Windows. Oh, you think that's funny?
Yeah, so we're
both
reinstalling right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I told you it's easier to uninstall than reinstall versus
It really is.
It really is.
So my recommendation for your root password, just use password.
That's what I told him. I even put my password over here.
Put passwords.
Yeah.
In the real world, like in a company, you probably wouldn't want to use just password. But this is just local. Nobody's gonna have access to this database except you. So just use passwords. Use something really stupid. Lowercase, no passwords, no numbers, just passwords.
Even if you think that you set it to something ridiculous, I download that same.
Indeed.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right. More solid.
Yeah.
Do a hack. Go through the internet. Read
It's okay.
everything.
We'll get to their.
Oh, I have well, you're fast reader.
We get there?
Whoa. Okay. What are the products?
My SQL servers, applications, my SQL connectors.
Oh, okay. You're actually in. You're getting connection and everything. Awesome.
Ready to break something down.
So when I launched Workbench, I automatically had the deep it may create a default working for you, but if it's already there, that's fine. You can still run through and how to make that connection. But basically, you just click the plus sign. You'll get this same menu. It'll ask you, which server you want to connect to, what what credentials you want to use. That's pretty much it. You're not missing anything. Anything that we're really
Yeah,
If you go to the page where you can add, modify. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm like adding that. I just didn't see that. It's not right. Saying a better experience. Wouldn't it, like, if you're installing something, wouldn't it ask you these questions?
Right.
So install these certain things.
Right. This only thing comes up, I think, if you have already installed and you uninstall it or something. You first like a fresh piece.
But so why didn't they do it for you the first time? It's nice though.
That's
all out the way. How do I?
He admitted at the beginning he wasn't very good with it.
That's true.
Well, not installing.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh-oh. How do I get back there? This seems not the same as what I think it was I mean, is there something different than yours?
This is
My password is I need to remember.
standalone classic.
now.
Okay, I don't remember doing this. I wonder if I didn't do this.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Don't question it. Like, let's keep talking. No, yeah, I'm at the hospital.
What happened?
It's not letting me set it.
Set it?
It's like asking for it.
What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I got you. I'm good.
Worst case scenario,
It's because you've already created it.
I feel like go check for position.
It won't check until it'll give you access.
So again,
You have to uninstall it.
Well, when I was
If you can't connect, then you know what your credentials
Like, I
are.
downloaded the MySQL server.
Yeah.
It's not even like an executable file. They let me
You
install
installing
it
it
through the server.
I actually already had the downskills.
I always recommend not to do that because
I've already had Brew set up for other.
yeah, well, Brew is the easiest way to install MySQL, but I recommend, especially on Windows, installing it from the Oracle website, mainly because when you install it, it includes the SQL preference page and system preferences. So you can stop and start the server without having to do that.
Show me that.
That's what I would do. And with Homebrew, when I ran into the legacy encryption issues, when I also did this on. But I was just looking at the other things I had.
Oh, my stack's not working. Maybe it's.
I just had a bad experience using it. Anytime I would try to, I tried to reinstall it. What it did is it basically
There's
it just like
do you have
deleted
GitLab
everything.
access?
Like my whole
Yeah.
sequence I was like, okay. So I won't do that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've got no Git.
It worked?
Put it in the random one. I didn't see it work. On just different people.
Oh my god.
What the heck?
Yeah, fair enough.
I thought I just downloaded it. That's so weird.
It's just like a complicated.
Going to supplement.
Yeah. But like, do you have it as a
Those now.
Yeah, this thing.
Oh.
Yes.
This is
Oh.
so before you do that, uninstall. Did you uninstall?
No, yeah.
I already did.
Yes.
Or you can remember your password.
It was getting a drink. It was password.
I don't know. I just was expecting someone
Yeah,
to
sure.
try dark.
Yeah.
So I was expecting to not say.
Wait. So after that, do I just keep hitting next? Like, are all the defaults good?
Oh no, the password you did it.
So I did the password.
So this is
Yeah.
yeah, this one.
Oh yeah. I like this.
So we're putting then you do test.
Oh,
That was successful, right?
Just mortifying experience.
My sequel. Man run around. All like. Now we're in the green.
We were thinking
So it's like you must get. You get the presentation. I was wrong.
I just love the search was clean sheets. Just how password. Probably saved. But then that other one, dude.
That was fun. Okay, so you worked in there.
So Sterling probably.
So what is DynamoDB? Is it NoSQL?
It's no sequel, yeah.
If you hover over local instance,
I don't know. I'm just gonna start. It's not downloaded.
What?
From that link, it gives me this.
What does it give?
like how it's gonna
Running.
it's not sticking.
We were talking about the brain like more stuff. Yeah, I was like, she was like, Lady
This is
we don't know about Lady Board. I told her I was doing it. I knew where I was executing. That's surprises. The shutdown is.
What the heck? Crazy.
Did you uninstall it?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Kind of,
This should work with the bigger package.
Yeah. Then you don't have to connect to anything. It should work. Let's see. Just so you know, you're holding up the class now.
I know.
You are the only one who.
It's just like.
That's okay. You guys got it? You got it working?
Oh, yeah.
What did you have?
And then some like 21-year-old.
In this one? So what's wrong over here? So you did this.
Then you need to actually install the whole thing. It makes an impression that you will be just doing MySQL Server. There's several options.
Right.
There's developer, there's just the server, and then also for everything. That's what you need to do. Then I do just the server, then you just those are the I would not figure that out. Yeah. Before you get to the networking portion.
And did you select this one?
Yeah, that's my really to get to that.
Oh, okay. You're saying there was more Okay. And you're able to do a test connection. Is this working?
It's working, but my batch still isn't.
No, batch. For that, you need to add your path file on Windows. What I understand. I think somebody posted on the one of the channels, resources or I don't know. I can't remember. But that's okay. You don't have to worry about it. Is this working?
Yeah.
Does this pop-up show up?
This is one right down the street. Really is.
Okay.
So let me see again. So I'm just
Really?
gonna
Dude,
go.
I love the video.
What is it? So I'm gonna.
Ready?
So you want me to go and pull up? Oh yeah. So I'm gonna do this thing. Is that
I mean, this is.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Oh, dude, it's so good. So weird.
But I don't know.
That whole island is my favorite. That's what I started to notice. I was like, oh wait. What's this all?
All right. Who else is still? You are still. Oh, you got it. It's only Joffrey. The only thing is we still give few more minutes. when you have the successfully installed, how do I get to here? Just to test it out, plus sign. Give this connection a name. I'm going to call it local host because this is just running on my local. Okay, doesn't matter. And then you do a test connection. It should ask you your password, and it should say successful connection. Everybody able to do that? Okay. And then just click OK. We should have something, and it should show up on this screen. Oh, I already have some databases.
How do you show in Visual Studio?
Visual Studio.
Or it's just Mac different?
Visual Studio? Where is Visual Studio? No, this
Does it
is
look like it?
it's just the dark mode. Yeah.
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 We've got
What is it saying?
So now I can just select something.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, there you go.
I was probably gonna buy.
Ah, I should already exist. Well, I just want my dad.
Don't worry about it.
When it comes to the password thing, select the legacy one. You will see 2 options. You got it?
Legacy.
Legacy.
He's so calm. So like,
That's good. Sometimes it'll give you a very.
I heard about like he accepted a DM, but probably yet to move. Oh, really? Yeah, but he's a guy. He does it for I mean, I guess it's a good opportunity for everybody to see back there. So, I mean, unless it's like a legit internship paid too.
In Windows, unfortunately
Yeah, I was gonna
not.
say you can't. I learned the hard way that you shell out.
This is only Mac option. Sorry. Yeah. I think Bryce was trying, but all you get is like a black.
It's literally just that. It's it's high contrast.
Yeah.
You just get like
Yeah.
black background.
Sorry.
Probably what we're doing here is like computer glasses.
Right. How far are you?
Yeah.
They ask your password? What happened?
Yeah. And the legacy.
Okay.
Like I have this different uninstaller, and I just did the Windows, but I didn't uninstall it fully, so I'm just doing that again. Yes, I did, but when I did the legacy, it's not letting me. I just put password in. But when I check,
So, I mean, if
Or
they're
it didn't uninstall.
yeah. Oh my god, my computer was like weird. Yeah, like oh.
And you didn't delete the MSI, the installer, right? So you don't have to download anymore. Just double click it. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I do. I didn't.
Everything's all.
like somewhat.
Okay. Now.
Yes.
Can we use, oh, you think it would be, I want to retest.
You're too late.
Oh, Randy, you're in for a treat.
So here's
joking.
here. All right, if you want to reset your password, do it after the class. The easiest way, what we have found out, is you can just uninstall the SQL, the MySQL server, and then reinstall it. It will ask you. There's
You can't just, there's a quicker fix.
no.
Use the equivalent.
Give it a try. I haven't been able to find a easier way.
Okay.
I googled it. They tell you like 5 commands.
Yeah, there's like
I didn't
commands
bother
you can
with that.
take, but they're really hard to get.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Okay.
But don't do anything now because we are almost at the finishing line.
I'll take that one.
That's like upgrading the workbench.
That's okay. Don't worry about the workbench.
It's like the testing thing, and then he has bonus to talk
I
about.
want to get to.
I have multiple commands. I'll let them know some people in there. So
Yeah,
I think he's alright.
That's my favorite.
You didn't even let me go to install the service. It's like upgrading the workbench. This is the same. There we go. There we go. Finally.
I mean, that came out after that.
This better work. First I printed it completely out.
People, so we went to Vegas last year in December. I think about it again, like the first night. Oh my gosh. My buddy was hanging out with his friends. We were just drinking and whatever. Right before I gamble, I need food. So
Could I just do not legacy? I mean, you witnessed it. I just. Should I just delete everything?
Yes.
Right now?
What you should do is completely erase Windows and install Linux Mint.
Okay.
Or even better, you can
Alright.
install Darwin and try to build Mac OS on your computer.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
I'm going to sit and watch.
Right. We'll take a break in a few minutes, and then we'll try to figure that out. All right, guys. Let's go ahead. Start again, and then we'll take a break in a few minutes. All right. So right now, everybody should be except Joffrey. Everybody should be on this screen. All right. So now what we have done is we have just created a connection. All right. We were able to create a connection. That does not mean we have created a database yet. Okay. So the first thing in a SQL database, you have to create a schema or a database. Okay. So to create a database, the command is create create database, and then you give database name. So in this example, I'm creating a animal DB. Okay, that's how you would create a database. This is the syntax for creating any database. Now, if you want to execute this, you will see these lightning or bolt icons on the top. You will see three icons. I'm going to click the first one. If you hover over it, it says execute the command. So when I do this, it's going to execute the command, and then at the bottom you should see a log or some message. If it is successful, you should see a green check mark. Okay, but on your left side, your database should show up. Right now, I still don't see my animal database. How do you do it? There's a refresh icon. I said the UI is not very intuitive, so you have to click the refresh, and then your animal DB should show up. Unfortunately, this is the font I can go. I can make this thing bigger, but I cannot. I'm not able to make this thing any large. So you'll have to trust me that there's the animal DB over here. Okay. Again, this is how you create a database. If you want to create another database, exact same command: create database, database name, and then semicolon. Yes. No, it is not case sensitive. You can make it lowercase. I have a setting. So the keywords from the standard perspective, I like to keep the keywords that are specific to SQL, uppercase. So create is a keyword that belongs to SQL. Database is a keyword that belongs to SQL. AnimalDB is my name that I'm giving, so I keep it lowercase just as a differentiation. But it does not matter. You can make it lowercase; it will still work. SQL is case insensitive. Good question. Okay.
So how come you have 3 out of 5?
Because I deleted the previous database, I still had it. So this is the only one. It's just a create database. One row is affected. Green check. It's good. Okay. So if I run this again, you will see an error. This time it says an error, and here's the error. Errors are kind of make sense. Most of the time. So it says cannot create because I already have this, right? So I cannot recreate it. I already have this database. Okay, that's how you will see an error. All right, everybody good? Right, so we have done this part. We have created a database. The next thing we have to do is we have to create a table. Okay? So the command to create a table is create table.
Whoa. Really intuitive.
So I'm going to make it lowercase just so that people can see it still works. Otherwise, this kind of irks me. I can do uppercase, but that's okay. Right? All right. Create table, and then you give it the table name. So I'm going to call it people, and then parentheses. We'll see. We need to fill the parentheses in a bit. So yes, you need a space. Okay. So the first thing we did was create database. The second we are doing is create table. The command is create table name. Okay, and then parentheses. Enter. We need to put something in the parentheses. What do we need to put? Columns. The next part is columns. So we are going to create columns. So to create columns, you give the column name. So my first column name is, I'm going to call it name, right? Custom. This is the name that I want my column to be. It's similar to Excel sheet. So I have the Excel sheet now. I'm creating these columns. Okay? These column headings. That's what I'm creating. So name, just as JavaScript, you need to give a data type. So for a string data type, it's called varchar or varchar, depends what you want to call it. I call it varchar. But varchar is same as string data type in JavaScript. Okay? Yes?
Would you normally capitalize name?
No, I would keep it lowercase. Yeah. Again, I've seen people doing it kind of like this also, but I would say keep the columns name lowercase. But these are kind of for you from the technical perspective. Nobody else can kind of see them. Okay? And then the syntax for the standard for column names, I'm going to be following. I think it's called snake casing. This means that each name is separated by underscore. I'll show you what I mean. All right, let's complete this. Now, varchar, you have to give the number of characters you want this column to be, right? So if I say 30, this means this column can only take up to 30 characters. All right. Now, is there a limit? I don't think so. There's a limit on the character type. You can make it as big, as long as you have the memory or it kind of runs out. 65,000 something, I think. But for now, parentheses, and then you put in a number which tells you this is how much your name column is going to be this long, right? 30 characters long. Everybody good? Okay. And that is it. So that's my first column. Similarly, if I want to create another column, this is, if I say has underscore pet. So I'm creating an animal database and I'm trying to capture people who have a pet. All right. So has pet is type Boolean. So we have a Boolean data type. Similar to JavaScript, it's called Boolean. So the first one you saw was varchar, which is a string. Second one is Boolean. I think they are interchangeable. Both will work. Right. Let me create one more called pet name. This is going to be warchar. I don't know, forget what I used to say. All right, I'm going to keep it 30. Last one, which one are we missing? Data type? Number. Excellent. So number is called it is called integer. And we need a semicolon at the end of the statement. So it is. Okay, there we go. All right. So create table, and then you create the table. And how do you create the columns? This is how you create the columns. You put the name, and then you give the data type. So three data types we have seen: varchar, boolean, and integer. Okay. Let's go ahead and execute this. All right, the first one. I'm getting an error. Same error. It says the database already exists, right? So the problem with this one is the first button, the first bolt, will run everything that you see on your screen over here. It's going to start from here, then go here, then go here, then start running, right? If you want, but I just want to run this command. So what you have to do is you have to select it or highlight. Okay, and then it's the next one over here. It says run execute only, which is kind of highlighted, or keyboard cursor. We'll come to the keyboard cursor part also. Okay, let's go ahead, and I'm going to still hit the first one. Okay, so I'm getting a different error, but if you want to only execute certain commands, what you do is you highlight them and then you press the first one again, and it's going to run only the ones that are highlighted. All right, this is useful when you are writing multiple queries and you're trying to see what this one does, what this one does. So you can just select the one that you want to run, and it's going to run only the one that is highlighted. Okay. The error is no database selected. So it's trying to create a table, but it doesn't know where to put that table, right? It doesn't know that it should go in your animal database. So we can easily fix this. Before you create a table, just add saying use animal db. Okay, now select this. Okay, and now hit execute. Now you see green check mark. There's my animal database with a table called people. Right? Again, use and the database name, that's only like a one time when you're trying to create a table. If you want to create another table that goes in your animal DB, you have to do use animal DB or the database name, right? Everything after that, we'll see we'll see how to tell to insert data. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a difference between typing animal DB and double clicking on the database name and the schema? Because the error message told me to do that before you got there.
Okay, so if you select this and then run this, it works. Is that what you're saying? It works?
I had to like double click it and then it turned cold, and then I ran it without it. It seemed to do that.
So right now it is okay. Yeah, that will also work.
What's under the pet name?
So,
What's under the pet name?
under the pet name is pet age.
Oh.
Okay? Yes.
You said to put it on a table, you have to use animal DB. Do you have to type it again, or you just have to highlight that part that we don't want to type?
Right, so there are two options. You can highlight, you can put it on the top, the use one, because I wanted to show you that there's a command. You don't have to highlight it. Or, as Matt is suggesting, you can just double click it and it will become bold. I don't know if you can see it over here. If I double click sys table, which is a system generated one, it becomes bold. If you double click this becomes bold, and then if you run that create table command, it's going to create a table. So you have both options. So right, I'm going to use the use animal DB so that people know that there's a command called use, and that's how you do it. Okay. So now we have created database, we have created table, and we have created columns. Any questions so far?
Well,
Yes.
so where did the people table? Where is it?
If you open your animal, where should it be? It should be inside your animal database, right?
Yeah.
So if you open up your animal database, you should see a table, and you should see people.
Well, I did something. Oh, I don't have that.
Okay, so if you don't see it, look at the top. Are you under schemas? There's an administration. I'm under schemas tab.
I don't have, I have like almost well, yeah, but when I open it, I have just succulents.
Okay, so did you hit the refresh button over here? This thing, refresh, right? So that's what I was saying in the beginning, that you have to hit the refresh button to see that. Okay. Right. All right, everybody good? So we created a, no? What happened?
I can't get the table.
I was like, I'm good.
You cannot get the table? What did you
No,
do?
I did.
Did you hit the refresh? So you were able to get to this kind of, if you don't have MySQL server installed, you won't be able to do
No,
anything.
I have it.
You have it? You didn't ask your password or anything? I thought you had a
Got
password.
it.
You got it?
When all fails, restart. So that's what I did.
Okay. So, you should have any error. Do you see any errors at the bottom?
Oh.
So what's the error?
Cannot create
Right. So you have an error.
database exists.
Okay. So again, what did I say? If you have to select the commands that you are trying to, again, if you run this exactly without selecting anything, it's going to start from the top and going to run each command. So right now we don't want the create database, we want to start from here. So I'm going to highlight this and then I'm going to hit the execute button. Okay. The other option is, we'll come to that option later on. So you have to highlight this and execute.
Yeah, that works. I
Okay.
guess it makes sense. It's just trying to create it
Right.
over and over.
Right.
So shouldn't you get an error if you try and run it again?
Yeah, he's getting an error,
Okay.
but he's not reading the error, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I wasn't.
This is how you fix it.
I mean, SQL is trying their best to tell you that what the error is. You just need to read
I
it.
didn't even look down there. This is
Okay.
my-
All right, let me do the last thing and then we'll take a break. All right. So what's the last thing we need to do?
No, this is all the same.
We need to create a row. All right, Joffrey, we need to create a row.
Alright, so
Okay.
create
So we are going to insert. So we did the database, table, columns, and row. This is a little bit trickier, so please look at the syntax. From the CRUD operations, we are now doing the C part. We are creating a record or a row. All right. So we are inserting. The command is insert. Let's give me uppercase now. I'm just going to make it uppercase. There. Insert into, and then comes the table name. All right. So I'm trying to insert a row in my table. Which table? People table. Insert this, parentheses. Right? In parentheses, you need to mention all the column names that the data goes into. So my first column is name. Second is called has underscore pet. Third is pet underscore name. And then pet underscore age. Oops. All right. So that's the first part of the syntax. Okay. So insert into the table name and then all the columns that the data has to go in. All right. The second part of this query is values. Let's do it in the next line. Same thing, parentheses, and then you're going to give values corresponding to this. So the order matters. Name, the first thing you're going to give is a name. The second one has to be a Boolean. the third one has to be another varchar, and the fourth one has to be a number. Otherwise, it's going to give you an error, right? So let's see, who has a pet? Give me some pet names. I don't have one.
Rito.
So Michael has
Rito burritos, Babu Babu Seal. The name of the person.
True.
Yeah.
How do you spell?
RITO.
RITO. Okay. Age?
1 year.
One. Okay. So this is how you do it. So insert into the table name the columns and the value that correspond that has to have one-on-one match with these. Okay. So select this and then run. If it is successful, you should see a green check mark. Okay. At the bottom, so it was able to successfully create a row. We'll see how to see that row in a minute. All right, everybody good with this part?
Yes.
So the database, how do you create a database? Create database. Table, create table, and then you have to give the column names. All right, define the data types. That's how you create a table. The columns come inside when you're trying to create a table. The row part is insert, or from the CRUD operations, we call it the C, the create part. That's what we are doing, the first operation. All right, so this way we have one row created. Now, let's look at the read part. Read part means I need to get the data back. Okay, the command is select star from and then the table name. All right.
It's a little hard to tell. Is there a space
Between
selecting?
yes, yes. Select space star space from people. So I'm trying to read all the data. Star means everything. Bring everything from this table. Bring every record. Bring every row from this table.
Oh, I made a thing.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, and at the bottom you will see a table pop up, and you will see your first record. Let's go ahead and insert one more. Randy, do you had a pet that you were saying, or was it Ivana? Dobby?
No, T-O-B-Y.
Oh, Toby.
Toby.
Toby. And age? 7. All right, so I'm going to insert one more record. Insert was successful. So I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to run this query again. And then now I have 2 records over here.
Where did you write that? Did you copy and paste it?
Yeah, I just copy pasted.
Oh, okay.
Or you can change this, but I would say copy paste. I copy pasted it, and then I just change the values over here. Okay, again, for your practice, don't copy paste. Just type the whole thing. Insert into the whole thing. All right. So now we have created a database, table, column, row, and from the CRUD operations, we saw create and read. Yes. Yes.
So why do the rows and columns because it's not putting the data in?
So do you see that error at the bottom? What's the error?
It's green.
It's green.
It's green.
And then you did a select. And how are you reading? You have this statement select star from people. And you just need to run this one.
Mine didn't create the table, it just created the header bar.
So you don't have any data in it, this means.
Yeah, even though you don't.
Did you do, and it is green check mark at the bottom, you guys are sure?
And then now that I try to redo it, it gives me errors.
Okay, what's there?
Create data, both animal and split.
Again, what did I say? If you want to run this, you have to select this and then,
You said select from people, right?
yeah, select this query. So if it is saying create database error, this means it's running the whole thing. So when you do an insert, select this, or put your keyboard cursor and execute the second button. Then it is going to work. Select the insert whole thing. And then run this. And your animal DB is supposed to be bold or whatever. Just double click, make sure it's bold. And then you have insert. It is very specific syntax. It is not going to work if there is any typo. Insert into people and this.
You just have to run it like the insert and then the other one and then it pops out.
Yeah. All right. So let me go and look at your. So let's take a break and we'll start back at 8:15. If you have any issues, I'll walk around and help you guys out. We'll take a break and we'll start at 8:15. What was that? Did you run the select query? It should pop up automatically. Select star from people.
I did.
All right.
I got mine requested, but I don't have it inserted. He's like, I'm not using it. He inserted it. I just don't know how to view it.
It's like everything.
Select star from people in MySQL. That's it. No, not the whole thing. You just need to do the. This. You see it? Yeah. No.
Wow.
How would you add more? Write the whole query.
You have to write the insert into or exactly
Write it out first. Column names. Yeah, you're gonna try something different.
Or no, I mean the same name on that, everything's the same
Right.
except for just the values.
Right. Why? Because the column you got the column.
Right.
It has to be.
But then again, the Eagles won the Super Bowl a little over a year ago.
So did you
Oh, no, you're no, yeah, no, they're going to they won the Super Bowl.
start?
Yes. You did?
Yeah.
How do you do it? Right. So how do you
So the 7 yard out is perfect.
Oh, but that's just food.
Right. It's on the
Which is actually Bill Belichick's whole scheme. FYI.
administration, users and privileges, and then root. Okay. So yeah, you have to uninstall though. So Kyle found a way. But the thing is, you have to be logged into your this thing on your schema. If you want to change your password, Randy, you can do is go in your administration. But again, you have to be logged in to change your password. So go into administration, and then wait, where did I go? Users and privileges, and then select root, and then you can change your password.
Okay.
You see, it's longer than what you typed in because it's encrypting it into something different. Because that is definitely not what I said. If it doesn't work, blame Kyle. Yeah, no, he tested it, so that should work.
So Daniel,
Yes.
I think I got a syntax problem.
Okay. Which one? Where are you guys? What are you trying to do? Let's start from the top. Were you able to create a database?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you able to create a table?
Yeah.
Kellen, were you able to create a table?
No. I was able to get all the writing in, but it's telling me the syntax errors.
Okay. So this is how you.
As far as I'm concerned, I
and you are selecting when you're trying to create. This is what you have: create table, parentheses, and then these are your column names. Okay, and then you have a semicolon. You have used animal DB. You're going to select this whole thing and then run this. Is that what you did? Randy, what's your problem?
I just did it. I don't see it. Yeah, exactly.
Or just do like webpack.
That's me. Good to know. That's me being hardcore. So,
Mainframe. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. All your right hand.
Yeah, we gotta roll this. Okay, cool, thanks.
So one of our, because your sys is, don't look at your so you had it on there.
So most directly. Everything else is. They're all covered over
Thank you, sir.
Did you see the road tall?
Yeah, if it's successful.
Till 10? Our break is till 10?
Yeah, a lot to cover. This was probably the easier part, unfortunately.
Good?
Yeah. I just missed the point of like, highlight this and hit it, and then highlight this and hit it.
What is it? What you missed the point?
So like the step to highlight, select.
Oh, okay.
And then hit
That you have to do
execute,
it
and then you have to highlight insert.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
that's what I
And
was
you see
missing.
the advantage that I was able to run this, and then I don't have to keep rewriting this. The other shortcut is you can just put your cursor, keyboard cursor over here, as long as there's a semicolon, and hit the second one. The second option over here. If you hover over it, it says, so everything under this cursor is going to run. So try that one. Just click that. Just, well, not hover. Click it, select it, like keep yours, and then run this command, and then that should also work. But you have to use the second button then. This one, the second bolt.
That's what I use originally.
Hmm?
That's what I use originally.
No, was it working? But you were getting an error.
No, I wasn't getting there
Okay.
because it was not pulling up the roads. It was like.
Right. So for the second button to work, your cursor should be on the query that you are trying to run. So if I put my cursor over here, it's going to run this query. If I put my cursor over here, it's going to run this query. Okay? Yeah.
And I guess, yeah, well, when I was closing it out, like, the databases are just, they'll stay there until you.
Right. Yes. They will stay there forever.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Is that bothering you?
No, I'm so hyper right now that like, it sounds, I'm like, squirrel. Nice.
Well, it's their person came there. And so it's like 4 people who know, so.
Yes, sir.
The timing was kind of funny. Like, you literally just started looking at database stuff, and I think I'm doing work,
Oh yeah.
and somebody asked about varchar, and
Yeah.
they look it up, and for the MS SQL stuff that we're doing, they looked it up, and it was like 8,000
8,000
characters.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it's the same for all of them, but it's just
Right.
amazing that today was the day that happened.
Really?
It was
Oh,
varchar.
so you guys are using Microsoft SQL Server?
Yeah.
It makes sense. You're on this Microsoft track, right? The C# thing.
Yeah.
So
Well,
kind of works
Yeah, it's what the
nicely with the C#.
they're teaching us what they use. So,
Yeah, the
which my
syntax
last
you will
place
see.
was all .NET.
Yeah, you will see the
Microsoft SQL
syntax
Server,
is
too.
similar.
Yeah, I mean, I've
It's
seen.
same.
I mean, I learned to write a couple select statements and then forgot. But this
Yeah.
doesn't look honestly any
Different.
than
No.
what I remember seeing.
The only difference comes in when they're a little bit more complicated queries. But for these ones, yeah, you won't see a difference between them.
Oh, nobody I watched capitalized anything.
Oh,
They
they
still
didn't.
had to.
Yeah, it's just a habit, and it kind of helps me to differentiate the keywords from the
Right.
words that I'm using.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think they were used to it, and most of them doing it was the only like coding type stuff they did. Like they weren't writing other code
Oh, okay.
trying to work with.
Right.
I'm sure the coders could, like the devs could too.
Yeah.
But I was usually used to talking to support people or DBAs.
Oh, okay.
And so they just do this crap all day long.
Yeah, so
I
yeah.
feel like hitting the shift key.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah, if you're doing day in and day out, yeah, no, you'll be like kind of getting tired with that too.
Get tired of having that extra button.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing I'm looking at is that's the only reason I don't know anything about them. I mean, it shows there on the scale. It actually says 10 and then 10 in parentheses, there's 2 arrows that show there on the screen. But I didn't tell you the trade was.
I saw,
Oh, is this from Eddie? Yes.
you have to, but I'm sure there's probably like a text file.
Okay, so this is probably.
No, he's at home, right?
Yeah.
Maybe one Brown. Yeah, see,
Well, it sounds like
Well, I also vote Jackson.
I mean, something like under the perfume,
That's the age. That's that age.
I'm surprised lots of
I guess maybe what has
I heard his stocks are way up, I'm not expecting it.
First, I'm just constantly, I'm just like I'm telling Jordan. I did a full, I got count.
Oh, you have.
that's like your base.
Sometimes people will,
The syntax is certainly crazy. Some of it. Josh Allen. Like, it's good. So,
Yeah, okay, so you're telling the kids every name is one column.
What's his name?
All right. Let's look at the next two CRUD operations. All right. So we have covered two of the CRUD operations. We did the create and read. The next one I'll show you update and delete. Right. Then you guys will do the exercises. So update means that the record exists in my database and I want to update that record. So right now I have two records, right, you see on the screen. So if I want to update them, the syntax is update, okay. Table name, people, set. This is where you're setting the new values. And let's suppose I'm setting the new age. I want to, so Michael's pet Rito, I want to update the age to 2. So the column that I'm updating is pet underscore age. So I'm saying pet underscore age, and the new age is 2. Okay. Now, how do I tell that which row to update? This is called where the column name is equal to Michael. Semicolon. Okay. So what just happened? I said I want to update the first row. All right. I want to update Rito's age to 2. So how do I do it? I said update table name people set pet underscore age to 2. This is the new value that I want to update. And which record I want to update? Where the column name is equal to Michael. So this way it knows exactly which one to go and update. Yes.
Does it have to be single quote?
Actually, it has to be. I usually use double quotes. Let's try with single quote. It might work. Let's see. I'm not again. It does work. Yeah. So it's kind of like a JavaScript. But again, in this case, also stick with one of them. So here's the thing. MySQL, both of them work, but you might run into a product where only single quote works. So just be careful on that. But I think over here, both of them work. Because I'm using something at work and only single quote works over there. All right. So everybody understand the syntax? So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, it says green check mark, everything good. So I'm going to go and select, and I should see my new values. Oh, that didn't work, sorry. Second one. So now the pet Rito, the age has been updated. Similarly, I can update any column that I want. All right, I can update, let's say I want to update has underscore pet, and let's say false. Okay, I can update this column. So let's go back and run this one. So the value changed from true to false. Again, in the database, it is 0 or 1, right? It's a Boolean. I can also update multiple at the same time. So I can say update this to back to true, and also update, let's say, pet age. So pet underscore age updated to 1. Okay, let's run this. Run the select query again, and both of these were updated now. So pet age is back to 1, and my has pet column is back to true. Yes. Oh. All right. So everybody, that's a funny part. That was a catch. Everybody's like quiet and like, yeah, it's working. So. All right. So all right, everybody, listen. Here's what you do. Go into your MySQL Workbench preferences. Go into SQL Editor. At the bottom, you will see Save Updates. Uncheck that box. So you want to update and delete without any restrictions. All right. Again, MySQL Workbench, Preferences, SQL Editor. All right. So you once you have unchecked, just close out your connection and then log back in. I don't think refresh my. It might you have to just reestablish the connection. So what do? Not delete the connection, just exit it out.
Do that again. I couldn't find the preferences. Yeah, it's gonna be on the edit. Yeah.
All right. For Windows, it's Edit and Preferences. Why is Windows so weird?
It's like white.
All right. So you are going to SQL Editor, and then Save Updates, the last check mark. It should be checked. If you're getting that error, it has to be checked. So uncheck it. Okay. Come back it. Try it again. If it doesn't work, you just need to disconnect your local host and come back and make the same connection. So. All right, then go back here, reconnect it, and then try now. Yes, what's your question, Reggie? What is it?
I don't want to bring it back up, but I still have it in my schemes, but I don't have it on the workbench area.
What was the question again?
How do I get it back into the edit where we're actually putting in the...
So do you see the query tab? Are you in that query tab?
Oh yeah, that one. Oh yeah,
It doesn't work. So what happened? This kind of disappeared?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm just query, and then I want to refresh because it doesn't.
Right. So it might have been that you didn't. I mean, we didn't save this. That's what it might have happened. This is just a. But are you in the query tab and just run a select query? It should come up. Try the update one now. Try the update. I mean, your table should be there. It's not going to get deleted. Yeah. So your queries went away. That's okay. You can rerun this. You can write the query. You write the queries again.
Oh, so you have to write it.
Yeah. Update people, whatever. Yes.
How do you differentiate between, if you're trying to update, let's say, one column that's the same first name?
Excellent question. We'll come to that. So, what Ches is saying, let's suppose I have of, let me go ahead, I can totally rerun this query, right? It's going to have the exact one. So, just for differentiation, let's call it 2, and then I'm going to rerun this. Okay? Now I have 3 ones, and the second one, but the name is the same. Now, if I run this, what's going to happen? How many rows is it going to update? It's going to update both rows. See, it updated both rows. So there's no differentiation. Now, with this schema, you cannot differentiate. And that's a good segue into the next part. We'll get to that part. How do we differentiate? But right now, with this schema, with this, the table that we have defined, you will not be able to differentiate.
So is this how you make like schema markup?
Schema markup?
Yeah, like when Google looks at it, it just gives little bits of data. So you have like a business, a level of location, hours. I mean, there's lots of different schema markups.
I think that's something different. So this is strictly database. I don't know what Google.
No, it's not like a Google thing.
Okay.
Like it's
All right. Let me cover one more thing, and then we'll take a look at that one. All right. So this is and these are called queries. So I'm going to refer to them as queries. So the last query that I'm going to write is for delete. All right. Everybody able to update after the safe update thing? Okay. Yes.
Because we were looking at it, I'm kind of different. So update people, I'm at a set page 2 and one in Michael, and then you did set has been true. So because it still gives me error even if I check the box. The first word.
What's the error?
No, it would just say update set
Right.
page 2 error code 1175.
So,
You are using save
right. So did you close this localhost and come back in? Did you reconnect it? So you have to close the connection, and let's make sure. So in your preferences, you have this unchecked.
I did that.
It's unchecked, and then you close this out, and then reconnect.
Reconnect?
So that's
Reconnect.
right. I thought you were saying you reconnected.
I thought I was.
Okay, so you have to reconnect to get that working. Close out and come back in. Close the localhost thing that you see on the top. That's what you need to close. And then reconnect. All right. Delete. Yes. Not working? Yes. All right. So the last one. We are severely behind. All right. Oh, you will like the last part. You guys are going to love the last one. All right. The last one is not this part. The next part. All right. The last one is delete. Now, how do you delete a record? Delete from table name. No star. Delete from table name. And the same where, and then you have to specify what you are trying to delete. So you have to find the column that you are trying to delete.
So can you delete a full row?
Yes, it will delete the full row, but you have to tell like a unique identifier which row it should delete. It should be able to identify the row uniquely.
So then again, if you have 2 Michaels in a row,
What's going to happen?
delete all of them.
Delete all of them. So that's why I'm going to delete Ivana instead first, to show you guys that this is how it's going to work. Alright, so it's going to go and select the column name. It's going to find this value and delete the whole row. Alright, again, you can put any column you want. You can put the pet name, you can put age, you can put that. But anything that qualifies this is going to delete it. Alright, success. Run the select query. That row should have been gone. So now I have only 2 rows. Alright. Now if I put Michael over here, what's going to happen? It matches 2 rows. It's going to delete both of them. Alright. Let's do it. Success. Oops. Now I don't have anything in my database. All right.
So why is it not? Why don't we have the start on that as well?
Start on what?
So like we have select from, but we don't
Right.
have a delete from. Is there a
Yeah, that's the syntax.
Just a syntax.
Right. And the reason there's a star. All right, guys, take a look at this one. Select star means get every column. Where's my select? Okay. So let me go ahead and insert again, and then I will show you what it does. So when I run this, right? So instead of star, I can actually give exact column names also. So I sometimes I just need some columns. So I can say select name from people. So now it's going to only bring me the name column. All right. Star means get me all columns. In production ready code, star is looked down upon. So you only get the columns that you need. Right now we have like 4 columns, but in production code you might have like seriously hundreds of columns. You don't want to put star and get all 100 of columns. So you can only select the sum that you want. So instead of star, you can put name. I want pet age also, let's suppose. So now it's going to get me name and pet age columns. Okay, name and pet age. That's what it is. Star means get every column. Oops. All right. So now let's go ahead. You guys do the next activity. Nick will strike it out. It's number 2. We are still on number 2. Wow. Favorite database. All right. You have to create the database, and I'll help out people who are having issues. All right. So these queries are up over here. Update, delete, insert, and then select. Where's my select? There it is. All right. So where are you?
So I
So where are you? What did I say? That if you select the first thing over here, this if you use this,
Yes.
it's going to execute every single thing.
But I only highlighted
Okay. The update one.
Well, I don't think it's updated because he doesn't update it, so I have nothing for it.
Okay.
So I need to update it the pad.
Okay. So go ahead and write the query yourself. Update everything. Set. What are you trying to do? Update the pet page. Update the pet page. Yeah, pet underscore.
What is she doing with her hands?
Set the column name. Which column are you trying to update? Pet page. Like pet page is equal to what's the new value that you're trying to update? No. I just update the pet age. First, update the pet age.
I'm gonna try change it to.
Okay.
But I do, yeah.
Change it to 2. Yeah,
No, he has to.
that's okay. Update it to 2. Something different so that you
Yeah,
can actually
so
see.
one actually.
And then here, which one are you trying to update? You're trying to update them. Okay. And this should exist in your Okay. Okay. And before you semicolon, and then run this code, select the star function and tell me what record you want. Semicolon.
I definitely remember that.
Nothing there, so you don't have.
Is that the first one?
No, we're just using the select. Did you run the select?
Yeah.
So select, I'm trying to get how many rows do you have in the row. So each one of these is a different query, right?
Yes.
So at semicolon the query ends. So I'm trying to run this query. Why? Because I want to see, I want to bring this table.
Right, but to run it, I have to highlight it, right?
Yeah, highlight it or just put your cursor and select
Oh,
the
you
second
just,
button.
so you just put.
If you select,
Yeah.
if you put the cursor, then it's a second button. Right. It has a cursor on it.
Oh my god.
Okay, so I got that.
Okay, so when you run the select query, what's the output? How many rows?
So that's the one where he falls out of, it falls out of the top.
Now go over here, highlight, put your cursor over here, on it, right? And then select this one. What it's going to do is going to go ahead and look for the semicolon and then run this query.
Okay, so the second one again.
If you don't want to highlight it, you are highlighting to the first one.
And it's
Would you die? What?
Okay. Unknown column. We will say where name is equal to minus.
You look like you want
You
to
already have this.
I want your sugar.
Name is equal to minus.
Extra.
And when you run your select query, you have the okay, then we'll go away. So run the select query again.
Yeah. It's kind of like
How many
accent of the person that
Select out files.
and this
cool at
this
work.
expression you have updated
And I made a
set that
database.
age is equal to whatever.
I mean, you'd probably do like the most.
Wow.
If it was equal to yeah,
And then semicolon.
Yes.
he could make it legit because he has the money too, as well, like to actually buy it.
Now here's what you
So,
Should
So
call
if I
it
drop everything,
favorite.
Alright,
That's
so
super.
again, I said.
nothing confusing about this.
Okay, question. So if I have this like and I make a database, if I just change the name and run it again, would I just create a new database? Change the name,
Select it.
right?
What do you mean change the name?
So like, cause I did this, create this favorite food, but I'm like, it's not favorite foods, it's just favorite stuff. So if I change it to favorite stuff and just ran everything, would it basically just create a favorite stuff with all the same things?
Well, it'll create a brand new database.
Okay.
Alright, there's already an error.
Hence, create
Look
database.
at the sentence and tell me
all of a
that's
sudden
exactly
randomly it's being
Exactly. There's already an error.
Dang, I wanted them to create it. Let's see this.
Okay,
Here's good.
okay.
Finish the activity.
Oh.
Okay.
I didn't say
It's
that.
very particular. It's not going to run if you don't have the exact name.
Get on
And is it working for you?
Okay, so.
So I guess we're controlling this.
Yes.
Now run.
You are, always are.
Even though I renamed the database, it made the database, I thought it would have put the table in there, but then it looks like it already has the table favorite foods. Even though it's outside of
But the
it.
good thing is you already have the insert query. Just scroll up, select it. and
I thought it would have just pushed it in there, the new database, and put it in there.
And how do I see the things?
How would you see? Select, right? Run the select
After
query.
create database?
So select
Yeah, so I
is
did create
again,
database, and it was the same line that I did though, I literally just changed the name of the database in the first line, and I thought that it would have just created the new database and then created the table in the new database. But,
Did it? Did you refresh?
yeah, it does, it says.
No tables in there?
Table, favorite food, already exists.
Okay. So when you use create database, so right now, so favorite food database is currently selected because it's bold,
Oh,
right? So you have to use if you want to create a new database and put tables in that, you have to use create database, and then after that you have to say use, your new database, and then it'll create all the tables.
Oh, okay, because I was saying use the old one. Okay, got you.
So after you select that, then you
Yes.
have to read them.
So do you do this in the directions or do you open up another?
And how do you read? Select.
Select.
Select is really
You can do
very
You can open up a new
Update is
tab.
update,
So
you can
see the
and create
on the very
is-
left side it says SQL with a little plus sign.
Okay.
Oh well, you already have it open, so that's fine. So in the create table pieces, so this is where you have to create.
Create as insert. And this is how you insert.
Create a column.
But I don't have a database. I'm create databases and you go through ignoring, right? Or we open up new tab.
Update is update.
You
Yes.
can if you want. You don't need to create it to create the columns. I mean, once you fill out all the column info, you can just run that all together.
So delete one.
So you kind of get stuff from what.
Yeah. So we
database.
we gave you the drop database if exists, create database. So those are separate commands. So you can run all that stuff all together. So you don't have to be on one level.
Oh, you were looking at something?
Yeah.
We're just creating columns, giving
Hold
you
on.
a data type. Look at the animals with the reference.
That's what I was trying to do, but when I opened up this one, it took that one away. We'll get both of that.
You don't have to keep opening new things. You just create a new tab.
So I just opened up when we downloaded the directions, I just tried to open up an SQ.
Well, do this. So do Control A, Control C, and then see where it says unconnected at the very top. Close that. In localhost, see the SQL with the plus sign under File. Click that. So it'll open up a new editor for you. Just paste that in there.
No.
That's it.
Oh. So did you, after that I can see animals,
Yeah, so see where it says name large R 30? So that's basically creating a column store, string with like 30. So looking at that, so the first one under favorite song or favorite foods, make a string column. There's going to be large R. It's going to be called food. And,
so is that kind of like comments?
yes. So with SQL syntax,
Yeah, that's what I was
to create database, so after every command, yeah. And the first one is you want to take longer than one.
Yeah.
So I would make it file. There you go. Where do you see that? That's already with that so those are just different tables.
Okay.
So what's your
You'll see.
Yes. Yeah, you can. There's a plus sign somewhere.
It'll probably give you an error for
The second.
well, you're calling it
Yeah.
working on it right now, so it's gonna create the table.
Yeah, new
You
create.
should put semicolon.
But when it labels it as a secret file. And not a query.
Use the uninstall.
What are you trying to do?
I'm just trying to create another tab.
Yeah, so new query tab,
Yeah,
right?
it doesn't name it query tab.
Yeah, that's SQL file 3.
Yeah.
That's okay.
This is same difference. Same
Yeah, there's no difference. Yeah, I don't know why it's putting SQL file, but yeah, you can totally run everything over here.
Right, it's just confusing because it puts file instead of query.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that. Yeah, not sure.
So that's what I'm missing.
So you
it needs to,
How
you know,
many
put
times you
something
open it,
in
it just keeps, it doesn't go back to your.
Or you can adapt
It's
it.
just a file.
String is
And
not
which
valid.
exercise is it? This is the.
It's the favorite database. It's in the Slack.
Right.
So you have to create 3 new tables. So at least create the first one, second one. Third one is kind of bonus, and we'll go over those in a bit.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, nothing in here is case sensitive.
No.
Yeah, because we're calling it,
Well, except the
so,
varchar values. These are case sensitive. Anything in a string.
Right, but I
because
mean,
it's,
like, because I
it's
have
already,
to be, like, the other ones are
has all
not
the
capitalized, or like,
Yeah,
it's still.
No, you can actually do.
So just open that file in MySQL Workbench.
This will also work. I don't know why, but it will work. Yeah, it doesn't. It's
I
not.
just wanted to make sure, 'cause I was like doing it, and I was like, oh wait, it's example below that, and then you're as all capitals.
So you can just copy all of that. So if you click in there, hit Control A.
Incorrect columns.
So click first,
Oh,
Control A. Go to MySQL, Control C now. And open the MySQL Workbench. And here.
All right. How many of you were able to at least do the first one? Oh.
Yeah.
That's it. Easy peasy.
Wow.
I got
Second.
it.
Now you just
I got that one too.
So that doesn't count. Yeah.
you didn't specify.
How many of you were able to complete the first one and run it and get a green check mark?
Yeah.
Okay. So the same.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yes,
Look,
yes.
So I have this. I don't know why I can't change the color, but it says incorrect column specifier.
And then
You
you
just
just
find
have
where
to
it is.
search it.
Okay.
Maybe.
And yeah, just like easy. No,
Mary is here saying it.
that's pretty great. It is. I mean, there's only 4 things you can do here. Only 4 things you can do.
No, incorrect. Oh, incorrect table. What was that? Oh.
You can open as many as you want.
So,
Incorrect. There can only be one auto column.
Yeah.
I only have this. There's no favorite color.
I don't know if you can split, if that's what you're
that's what I
talking
was,
about.
yeah.
I don't think in MySQL Workbench. Yeah, MySQL Workbench is not like.
I know.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of like really nice features.
Yeah. Like that. Do I have to do use? Do that first.
Oh, do you have a database?
So,
Yeah.
inside the parentheses, typically you set it to, you say varchar parentheses 30. So we're setting a length saying, hey, expect us to have data, you know, up to 30 characters. Yeah, for this stuff, you honestly.
Well, I was going to go through the syntax, but do at the end. You will have to do. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Actually, define column as key. That's good. You already found the auto increment part.
Yeah, it was like W3 has everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, but for the sake of this example, we're not working with gigabytes.
Yes.
Okay, prior to, yeah, so basically.
500 million.
Did you Google it? Is that an error?
Well, you wouldn't store. I don't think varchar
Okay.
goes up that high.
So you did the first table,
Yeah, no, it does have a limitation, but
and they are there.
again, it just depends on what kind of data you're going to be storing. So if you know, like, if you
Yeah, but they
have
all,
a table
if you create the
where
first table,
your
you ran that
username,
table
like,
and it's
user
there. You
profile
don't have to
is
select.
and one of the columns is like the username. of
Yeah,
your
you can view the table over here on the
that
left.
needs to be
Remember
50 characters long. It could be 3 characters long, right? First
on your left
initial,
panel.
middle initial.
Expand this, and you should see the
So it just
table.
depends on the data.
Oh, yeah, so this means your
Even 5.
Sure.
it's there.
Because you don't want to, if you limit it, and then someone does put 5, it's just failure.
Well, you have to limit it more than just you have a limit in the database, you have a limit in the back end, and you have a limit on the front end as well. So the front end is user interaction, so the user can
what's
see, hey,
your
it can only be 3 characters long. The back end still has a limiter, mainly as a safeguard. That way, you don't get an error from the database, you get an error from the application
Look up your
itself. So you essentially, when you're doing validation, you have to essentially do it in 3 different places.
slots.
But, that keeps it safe.
That's right.
Keeps your application from blowing up. We don't want that.
Selected, but now I don't know where your materials went.
You drop your data. You have a drop database. If it's
Oh, yeah. So select your size.
select the second. This one. The second mode.
But I don't have the database.
Yes, you were on the right position. You're right. This is second button.
Oh. It's like,
What's
wait.
the error?
Can't create database here, unstored database is this.
Okay, refresh on the you see it? Now there's no table. Let's go in the table. Second mode.
Does it, the boolean has to be.
You already have a error. You see the red
So we don't
squiggly
get
and
your
Yeah.
just
You're missing a column.
Literally right.
Like
So like what would we do?
Yeah, I mean, primary space key.
You have to put primary.
Refresh on the.
I don't know. That's what I did.
Okay, open tables. You see it? Create the second.
It doesn't like.
So how far did you get?
It depends on.
Yeah, I mean, I
What's
got
the syntax?
just add primary key ID.
Yep, that's it. Primary.
It didn't really explain it.
We'll go over it. Primary.
Well, it
key.
depends what's in the directions.
They're just setting that as.
Right.
Oh,
Just,
okay.
so favorite food says make a string column.
Oh, because that was the only time that I
Make
used.
it numeric.
Ah, getting it.
So you're saying like this is okay.
This is the unique identifier for every row. Remember we had an issue when we were deleting it? This is how we solve it. We'll go over it in a
These two are
minute.
already done for you. All you have to do is just
So I want to hear what you're saying. So primary key.
So, yeah.
Searching it, same way, select ID from people or whatever your table name is, and then you put a var clause, where clause, where I don't know what you're trying to search. Oh, the primary key one, yeah. John Free Water, you can work with. Well, we'll go over it in a bit.
I literally just googled that exact.
Yeah, it comes up.
There can only be one auto column.
Excellent.
The first answer.
So you're selecting from the database. You need to say favorite DB dot.
All right. Let's go over the primary key part. All right. Let me go ahead and remove this. Drop database. If it is This is a long way, or you can just right click over here and delete it. Right click and drop. All right. All right. So by deleting a database, it's called drop. So you drop the database. All right. So let's look at the primary key thing. All right. So what was the issue we were running into? We had two Michaels in our database, and when we deleted it, deleted both of the Michaels. I only wanted to delete one Michael. Right. So for that, what happens is you need to identify your record, your row as unique. There has to be a unique identifier. Okay. Now to add a unique identifier, a lot of you guys already figured it out. Usually you will see a column named ID. Again, this is a custom column. You can call it anything you want, but ID means identity. This means this is the identity of my row that is always going to be unique, and I'm going to use this ID to delete anything or update anything. Okay, so almost always you're going to have an ID column in every table, right? So how do you define it? You say ID, and I'm going to make it ID as an integer, right? Does it have to be an integer? It does not. It's the easiest way to do it, right? It can be a string, it doesn't matter, but usually right now when you're starting, keep it as integer. It's easy. And then you will see a command called auto increment. What it means is that every time you insert a row, update the ID by 1 plus 1. All right, the first time a record comes in, put an ID of 1. The second time I insert something, make the ID 2.
Oh, just track it.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it keeps going on. All right, until you reach the limit of integer column, which is like 2 to the power something, 32. All right. And then the next one is I don't want this to be null. Why do I not want this to be null? Because this is my identifier. This is the most important column in my whole database. If this is null, I will not be able to identify anything in my database. Yes.
I think the question that I have, auto increment and not null switch, does it matter?
And not, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's so,
No question.
yeah. No, it's so good. Again, so I'm defining a new column called ID. It's the data type is integer. Auto increment means that this column is going to automatically insert an ID by looking at the previous one and adding 1 to it. I don't have to insert an ID. Okay, it will automatically do it for me, and we'll see how it does it. Right? Not null means that this column cannot be null. If I try to insert something as null, it's going to give me an error. It won't let me insert it. Okay. Now, the last thing you need to do is define a primary key. What is a primary key? Primary key is the unique identifier that uniquely identifies your rows. All right. Your primary key is always unique. It cannot be duplicated. All right. If you try to duplicate it, it's going to give you an error. All right. So by designating any column as a primary key, you are saying that this is my unique identifier for my record in my database. All right. So in every case, when you're defining a table, you need to have an ID and you need to have a primary key. All right. Since you were starting, we didn't have it, but from now on, you are always going to have a primary key. Okay. Again, what is a primary key? It's a unique identifier that uniquely identifies any record in your database. It cannot be duplicated. It is always unique. Okay. Now, how do I go ahead and insert? Where's my insert? There it is. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to first create my database. Okay. Refresh. My database is there. I'm going to go ahead and create my table. Okay. Let's go ahead and. Oops. What is the error? No database selected. Okay, double click this. Select it. Run this. Green check mark. Let's go ahead and refresh. I have a table now. Now I'm going to go ahead and insert my. I'm going to run my insert query. Okay. So go ahead and insert And I'm going to run my select query so that I can see what inserted. All right, so now I have first row and you see the ID, it's 1. All right, did I put an ID in my insert statement? I did not, right? Anything that has auto increment, you don't have to worry about it. SQL is automatically going to figure that ID out. The primary key is going to add the next one. So if I run this, yeah,
What if you
try to give an ID, try it. I don't know if it will give you an error. Let's try it. Well, we'll try it in a minute. If I run this insert query again, what's going to happen? It will insert another record, but this time the ID is going to be different. It's going to be 2. Okay? Oh, I ran the second one. All right, let me go back here and run Michael again. And then run my query again. So I have 2 Michaels, but the IDs are different. And if I want to delete the third one, chess, that's how delete. So I said delete from people where ID is equal to 3. That's how I will delete it. Matt, did you find out if I put an ID, what happens?
No.
Let's go ahead. Let's put a 4. Let's say ID and put a 4. Okay. Looks like it did. Let's go ahead and see. And there's an ID of 4. So it lets you update. Now, if I go ahead and try to do 1, it should give me an error. Why is it giving an error? Because an ID of 1 already exists. Again, this is what Michael was asking, but for now, please forget about this part. I don't know why I even tried these things. It's fun, yeah. Kind of resistant. Yes.
How does the increment work if you've gone back and deleted stuff?
Right.
Do you know the highest increment?
So if you delete ID 1, 2, and 3, and you insert, it's going to insert 5, the next one. It knows what happened. You cannot go back to 1. All right. It's always going to start from whatever it has in its record. Okay. All right. So this is the concept of primary key, and from now on, you are going to have an ID, and you're going to have a primary key in every table. Okay. All right. Questions? Yes. How do we do what?
When it says grade volume column called 5 times, that sets the default value to false.
Default, right. So,
I created the
did you Google how to put a default value? Right. So the purpose of exercise was so you guys can Google it. But did somebody find the default one? How do I do this?
I just realized right now that we're supposed to set
Yes,
it to
you
false,
say,
that's why I
you
was
just type
Oops.
default,
Just type default. Default,
and then what you want the default to be.
default, true.
This was very, very easy.
Okay? That's how you do it, the default.
Amazing.
So my defense, I just realized
They'll come and bite you.
No, well, this. At least when you Google something, the answer was not like a wall drawn out stuff.
All right. Questions? Everybody good with the primary key concept? All right. So let's do the next exercise, which is programming DB. And this one you have to use the primary key concept, similar to the previous one, or complete the previous exercise. So take 10 minutes, and then I'm going to introduce the last super complicated concept, and then we're going to end this class. No, I said I'm being serious. All right, let's do the next one, the programming DB. So you have to create a database, programming underscore DB. Okay, double click it so that it's bold. Now you can run those queries in it. Create a table, programming languages. Include a primary key, same as this one. ID, integer, auto increment, not null. And then the last, number 14, very important, primary key. You have to designate a column as a primary key. So this column is saying, this line is saying that this column, my ID column, is my primary key. Okay, I can designate name also. You can designate any column as a primary key. But for now, just use the ID one. Okay, then you have to create String column languages, numeric column called rating, which is an integer, and then insert some data. He's typed it out.
Soon. Patience.
It's on your Slack. The next activity. It's called programming database. Okay. The bonus part, that's what we will cover in a few minutes. No, don't put parentheses. Just do integer. For integer, you might be seeing parentheses, some number. Please don't worry about it. Just put integer. I can tell you it has to do with precision, how many digits you want to see. For now, it's a little bit hard to understand, but simple integer. That's why I never use the parentheses. You only need parentheses with your varchar. Don't worry about integer. Just do integer. Why is it duplicating stuff? It's not able to render this properly. All right. Any questions so far? Primary key. Getting it? Were you able to create the table?
Yeah, well, I have a question.
Yes.
So with the ID part, because the first time I did it, I thought it would just add the number in there for the ID. Then it said it didn't match, the column count didn't match. So then I put 1 in and it worked. You have to add that each time.
No.
I thought it would auto increment.
Yes.
So how do I?
Do you have ID as
Yeah.
auto incremented and you declared it as a primary key?
Or do I just have to reference ID?
You have to declare. You have to designate that ID column as a primary key. Remember?
When you do that,
Huh?
so the question I have is, when you're inserting into,
Yes.
and you have your values,
Yes.
what do you set?
Exactly. Just skip the ID.
Do you just put ID? Or
No, you don't put ID. You don't have to do anything. Why?
When I didn't put anything, it gave an error.
Right. It shouldn't give you an error. Here's why. Because you are saying this is an auto increment. You are telling SQL to take control and then automatically add that value. Did you put a comma and did you put it primary key as ID?
Yes.
Okay. And then it should work. Everything else is matching.
Like, everything I have lines up.
Walking over there. Matching.
I mean,
That'd be everything.
Let me see.
Alright. I mean, do I have to do not null?
So we don't.
let's see.
I just
wanted to think that.
It should be not null because it needs to be an auto. If you're auto incrementing it, should be not null.
I took out my value.
Well, that's not going to change anything. So you have to rerun this all over again.
Oh,
What is that?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. Anytime you change anything, so it's only going to run once. So if it doesn't exist, then it'll run. But if you change something here after you run it, it's not going to change it here.
What's the Boolean part?
So that's going to give you an error. So you have to do this. You have to
master, which will automatically fill, and then when true, when a new row is made, then the value is on the list.
So we just did it, right? Default true.
That would do automatically. That's the automatic fill.
Automatically what?
Drop table basically
The
just
automatic fill.
Yeah,
it
default
deletes
true.
it.
That's why I was like, wait, if I don't have everything that we have to enter in, I can't, I tried to search it. and I
No,
was
it's
like,
a
no,
different, just a different wording. Yes.
Now we don't need this.
When I created my this and I did a
You
select from
shouldn't need ID here.
Like start?
select star from the table name. And so it gives me the values that I put there, and then it gives me another line that says no.
Right. No, that's fine. It's just
I didn't
saying,
know if I did
it gives me the
that.
same thing. It's just saying that you have
with auto increment,
an
you don't
ID,
know because it
auto
can't be
increment
null.
ID,
Because if
and
it's null,
the
then
next one,
auto
there's
increment-
the row kind of stops over there. So that's okay. That's just SQL being
Because of the
SQL.
auto,
Yeah, that's because of the auto increment. That the next one is going to be inserted over here. So it's telling you that this is where it ended. So if you have like 100 rows, if you don't see a null, this means the data is still going on. So it kind of stops it. That's all. All right.
Okay.
We good? All right. So we need to look at the last topic.
That's pretty cool.
All right. So this one is probably the most difficult of this today's part. So please focus on this one. There's no like an exercise. So I will post this whatever the solution that I have, and then you guys can look at it later on also. So that's why there's no exercise. So I'm going to go through it and kind of walk you guys through it what it is. All right. So what have we been looking so far? We are only creating how many tables? Just one, right? Just one, and we are selecting from one table. But is that what happens in real life? No. We are going to have multiple tables. All right? That's how a good design is. You are, again, as I say in JavaScript, we modularize everything. When it comes to database, you have to break it down into multiple tables. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 100, right? So when you have multiple tables, you have to get the data from both of the tables. So remember when I was saying that SQL is a relational database? Relational just means that there are relationships between the tables. All right. For example, I'm going to create two tables. One is going to be called books, and one is going to be called authors. Right? Do you see the relationship between both of these tables? Yeah. There's a logical relationship, right? So there's some data related to books over here, and there's some data related to authors which have written this book, right? That's the relationship, right? But the data is separated out in two tables, and when we run our select query, we need to find out what author wrote what book, right? Or what books belong to what author. So we have to combine the two tables, or we have to join the two tables. That's join is the SQL word for it. Join. So join is used for combining the data from two or more tables, and then you get the data back. All right. So we'll start with two tables, and we'll see how do we do it. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two. I'm going to create a database called books. Let's run this. Refresh. Oh no. Where is my database? Oh, there it is. Okay, so I have my books database. Okay, now I'm going to create two tables. So I'm going to paste the definition. All right. Before I run this, everybody clear on this? So I have a table called books. I have three columns: ID, author ID, and title. All right. And my ID, I'm saying this is my primary key as auto increment. All right. Forget about the 11 one. So I'm going to remove this. This varchar 100 characters. All right. So let's go ahead and run this, and this should create my books table. So in my books database, okay, come on. There's my books table. Okay. So I'm going to create the second table called authors. All right. So I have my table authors, integer ID, two varchars, and this thing. Okay. I'm going to run this. Success. Refresh. I have my two tables. Okay, everybody good? So now I'm in my two tables. Now how are these, if you look at these two tables, how are they linked? By the IDs. Excellent. So the ID over here is actually kind of corresponds to the author ID over here. How? Why do I know this? Because I know these two tables I created as a being the relationship between both of them. And how are they related? They're related that from books, this ID should match this one. Right now I don't have any data, but my intention of creating these two tables and creating this author ID is that I want to link these two tables using the ID, and that's how you link two tables. Right now, again, this is more like a logical creation, right? I know by looking at this that there's a connection. SQL doesn't know right now, right? But I know that this ID in my authors is should be the same as this one. When I insert rows, I'm going to make sure that the ID that is over here kind of goes to the same one over here. Okay? So let's go ahead and insert few rows that I have. I'm going to insert 4 rows. Okay. Same command. Insert into authors. I'm inserting into authors table. The 2 columns. Do I need the ID one? I don't, because it auto increment is going to add some values to it. And then I'm going to, these are the first name and last name. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to select all of these, run them. Okay. And then I'm going to run my select query, select star from authors. Okay, so I have my authors over here with these IDs. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I'm going to insert data in my books table. I'm going to use the same IDs that I have over here. Let me do one by one so that you guys can see. So I'm going to now insert in my book. So what am I saying? Title and author ID. Pride and Prejudice, and what ID should I be inserting? Jane Austen. All right, because she wrote that book. Right. So let's go ahead and insert this. Success. All right. So I'm going to insert similar rows after this. All right. So I have a book name and the author that corresponds to it. Now you see it's still 1. Why? Because Jane Austen wrote this book also. So it kind of corresponds to the same ID. All right. Tom and Sawyer 2 because it was written by Mark Twain. All right. The last one is null because I don't have an author that wrote the Dracula. All right. What is it? Right. I don't have Bram Stoker over here. Right. So this means I don't have the author information. So I can insert null, and I should be able to insert null because I haven't put in my database saying this should be null or anything. In my books one, I'm saying author ID is integer. It can be null because I didn't put not null. So this should still work. So let's go ahead and insert these. Okay. Now let's go back and do select star from books. And this should be bring me the books over here. All right. So author ID, this ID is the IDs for this table. All right, the author ID is the author from the authors table. All right, everybody good? All right, so now how do we join this? Select. All right, what is it, Randy? Ooh, where's my select? Here. Select what? Star. From, and then you are going to put the table name. I'm going to start with books. You have to put both table names. Inner join. All right. So we are going to look at 3 kinds of join: inner join, left join, and right join. All right. Inner. Oops. Right and left. So the first one is more widely used. What it does is it will select unique rows that match in both the tables. All right. So it's going to combine both the tables, and then it's going to match on IDs. But you have to specify what it should be matching on. So I'm going to say match on books.author ID is equal to authors.id. Right? So what am I saying over here? I'm saying go into the books table and authors table. Combine the data. And how do you combine the data? You combine where the ID, the author ID matches the ID in this table. Okay? Match those 2 IDs and then get me that data. So let me run this and see what happens. All right? So the data that you see on the screen is every column from both tables. Right? ID. So the first 3 are from books. The second one are the last 3 are from your authors because I wrote authors in my as last. Right? Again, what happened? It went into both tables. It saw where the IDs were common, and those are the rows it brought. Do you see Dracula over here? No. Why not? Because it did not have an ID. It was null. It did not fit this criteria. There was a books.author ID which was null, didn't match any of those. So that's why it didn't bring that record or bring that row. Okay? So this is how inner join works. It will go and it will evaluate this clause and then bring all the rows that kind of fit this criteria. from both the tables. Okay, this is probably the more easier one to understand. It kind of makes sense that when I'm trying to combine two tables, what am I doing? I'm trying to get the rows that exist in both the tables. That's what I'm more interested in. Okay, so I'm trying to find out what authors wrote what books, because from the individual tables I cannot tell which author wrote which book. Can I tell that? No, because if I do select this one, it just shows me books. I don't know what authors wrote them, right? From here, I can only see author information. I don't know what books they wrote. But if I combine them and do an inner join, I can actually tell which author wrote which book. Okay? The more common is, I'm not interested in the IDs anymore. I'm only interested in title, first name, last name. Okay, so more usually you write some because I'm not really I don't care what the IDs are. I'm interested in what authors wrote which books. So the other was kind of like white noise and kind of adding some data. So I'm not interested in the IDs anymore. I just want to see what authors wrote what books, and this is how I do it. Okay, that's your inner join. Now let's look at the next one, the right join. What right join does is the table that you, let me copy this. Let's make it a star. Okay. Let's change this to, wait. Okay. So what right join does is it brings all the rows from your table that is on your right side, which is your authors, right? Right of this thing. So on your left is books, on your right is authors, right? So what right join does is it will bring all the rows, even though if there's no match in books, it's going to bring all the rows from that table, and then all the books records which kind of match this. All right. One more time. Let me run this first so you guys can see what happened. So it brought everything from the author's table. That's why you see author over here, but there's no book for this author. Okay? Why not? Because you are saying right join, bring everything from this row. I don't care if it matches in this table or not, right? Bring everything, every row from this table, which is on your right, but the table that is over here, then you go ahead and match. And that's why you see none null, because this record, the ID, does not exist in the books table. So it brings you a null. What's the difference? Inner join combines both tables and matches exactly which matches. Right join brings everything from this table and tables that kind of match from this one. All right. Now what is left join? Left join brings everything from books and then the rows that match from your from the author's one. So left join is saying bring everything from books table. So that's why you see the Dracula over here, but there's no author in the other table. That's why you don't see any information for the author. That's why you don't see Andre author in this one. Again, inner join combines unique and brings everything that is common in both the tables. Right join will bring everything from the table that is on the right side of your query. Left join will bring everything that is on the left of your query. Okay, those are the three joins. Yes.
So it's outer to show you everything.
Outer just shows everything. Yeah. Outer just brings everything. I don't know why I'm doing this. Oh, there's no outer over here. I think it's a different word. I'll go back and see. Okay, so inner, right, and left. Remember these three.
Is there one that you use the majority of the time?
Inner join.
Inner join is the one. Okay.
Yes. But these two exist in different cases, but the most of the time inner join. Because I am always interested in what matches what.
Yeah.
So inner join is a more common one. Okay, questions? All right. For Saturday, I'll be here teaching Saturday. please go back and study this. Saturday is going to be more difficult than this. Why? Because we are going to jump into Node.js. This is the SQL and this part is done. I'm not going to come back to this part. We are going to look into the code for Node.js. How do we connect our Node.js with the database? All right, that's a battle in it itself. So please go back, review these exercises again. I'll see you guys on Saturday.
Seriously.